What's up guys, it is time for the Phantom Job tier list. As someone who has actually leveled all of the jobs up, who has tried them all in critical engagements and gold farm at max level, I have a lot of opinions and there is a massive disparity between the top performers and the, to be quite honest, Geomancers of the bunch. You'll see what I mean in a second. The structure of this video is going to be that I'm going to go through each of the tiers and I'm going to go through the jobs in them and give you a brief rundown of why I put them in there. In S tier there is one job and it can only be this one because it is so far above the rest that it is absolutely comical. It is going to be the Cannoneer. This is going to be your best in slot whether it is gold farming or critical engagements. Simply put, not only does it bring pretty comparable damage to the absolute bleeding edge top highest damage, but it's also bringing amazing debuffs, which includes Silver Sickness, which you can use in critical engagements to increase all damage that the target takes by 5%, and that's a consistent effect that you can keep up. Not to mention, when you're doing gold farms, the blind is incredibly useful to help keep your tank alive. Whether that's using my recommended strategies, using the massive tank pull with the home gang method, or on a slower pull. In fact, I would argue that the Cannoneer's even better for the slower pull because it brings these debuffs. Not to mention that all of the cannons are on a low 30-second cooldown timer and that you get 3 of them, so it allows you to spread out your damage between targets a lot more evenly than what you're going to hear in a second, which is going to be ones that have damage abilities on a 60-second cooldown where you have a little bit more downtime between them. It's one big single burst, yes, but it doesn't allow you to really effectively spread it out in situations that deem it necessary. Now for the AT, we are looking at 3 amazing jobs here. First up is going to be the Oracle, and Oracle is easily one of my favorite jobs that we have seen introduced in Occult Crescent. By far, it is one of the coolest. First up is that the predictability does have a lot of different effects, but generally you're going to go for Starfall, which is every 60 seconds you're going to do a massive amount of AoE damage. One of the problems with that is that you do also damage yourself. However, the Oracle also gets an ability which allows them to heal themselves through Phantom Rejuvenation. The Oracle also gets on a 3-minute cooldown timer the ability Invulnerability, which is absolutely fantastic. Oddly enough, in some of the gold farms when the Warriors home gangs were down, someone actually would swap to Oracle and actually use this Invulnerability ability in order to keep us pulling. They do have other abilities like Recuperation as well as the Doom, which I would argue that the Doom is a very good ability if you're doing the slower pulls. Not going to be so useful if you're doing the mass warrior pull, which I do recommend doing for gold farm, but if you're doing it slower, Doom is going to get a lot more mileage. In general, for both critical engagements as well as gold farming, I've been pretty impressed with how Oracle is not only flexible but does a lot of damage. I'm really impressed with it. Next up is going to be Samurai on the A tier, which is purely because it is so much single target damage that it is absolutely mind-blowing. In fact, when I ran the numbers really quickly, just in pie charts, just plugging it into Python, the Samurai was way above everyone else, and I was actually thoroughly impressed with it. Like, if I'm super honest, am I impressed with the Mini Uche or Sirahidori? Not at all. But the 2 abilities, Tanuki on a 40-second cooldown timer as well as Zen Image, is so friggin' good. That does 1,500 potency, but unfortunately it is on a 2-minute timer. So where you saw me compliment the Cannoneer because the Cannoneer could spread out its damage, unfortunately the Samurai really is all in on one target. Unfortunately, this is going to make Samurai fall significantly behind in the massive warrior AoE pulls, and where I would put Samurai really, really low because it is good in single target, not so good in AoE, but it is so good in single target that I am truly impressed with it and putting it in A. Chemist is next up in A, and this is purely because the amount of healing that you can do, you are spamming it, literally benediction. I mean, I guess it's not an ability and it is on the GCD, you could get me there, but honestly, a full heal is incredible. You can also fully heal MP. Yes, this works on Black Mage. I've tried it myself. It's freaking great. As well as Elixir. Oh my god. That is such an insane amount of restoration. That is bizarre. Not to mention you get a spammable revive. If this was not in the A tier, something's wrong. Is it the most damage? No. Is it going to be something that you necessarily want to be when you're in a farm? No, but when shit hits the fan, it is really nice to just swap to it and revive everyone. Don't think that has gone beyond my awareness. It's really handy to have. Next up is going to be the Bard. I love the buffs that it brings through offensive aria as well as every 2 minutes hero's rhyme. That is a significant amount of mitigation. Not to mention, Mighty March is such a powerful instant burst of HP, plus it gives you everyone the warrior's effect where it's going to go above the basic HP threshold and increase your max HP for 30 seconds. That is actually really strong. Not to mention, Romeo's Ballad is going to CC enemies that are doing a spell. It is really, really powerful. Why it's not higher is because the other jobs I do find so much more effective in what they do that Bard I do think is lower. Bard is far from useless, hence it's B tier, but I don't think it is as strong as, say, Cannoneer. I can say if you want to play a buffing style character, Bard would fit really well, ironically enough, on Bard. It would give so many buffs to the group. Next in B tier is going to be the Berserker, and part of me thinks it might be the novelty, but I've also seen it be incredibly effective. Rage is just going to cream enemies. Unfortunately, it doesn't scale with attack speed, so things like Ninja's base attack speed being higher, I don't see it. Or if you're looking at Monk with its Riddle of Wind buff, I'm not seeing it there. It's funny because the Rage buff falls off and then you attack so much quicker, so unfortunately you can't really scale it up. But if you look at Rage, it hits a lot on its own. But if there is, say, any incoming AoE, or if you're the tank, oh my god, if you're the tank, I think this is probably your highest output. But Deadly Blow, if you take any damage during Rage, Deadly Blow is going to deal so much damage, it is absolutely incredible. Now we're going to be talking about the Seer tier jobs, which is going to start with Ranger, and I know a lot of
people are going to disagree with me on this, and I kind of see people who's disagreeing with me's point, but I kind of don't. So the first thing is that basically this is a job that just gives you a buff to fit into the 2-minute window. What are my thoughts on job homogenization in the 2-minute window? If you are new to this channel, you might not know, but for anyone who is here, what are my thoughts on that? That is right, I fucking hate job homogenization in the 2-minute meta window, and I bemoan the loss of scholars' dots and job identity and the pruning of our skills. Why on earth would I want to recommend Ranger to anyone? This just feeds more into the 2-minute meta, because that is basically all you get, because the Falcon skill is absolutely worthless. I have not seen any damage or any situation where I'd want it. Why would I want this that's doing like 10 potency when I could go Cannoneer? Like, I'm not trying to be fictitious when I say that. It's just legitimately, when is this going to compare with Cannoneer? And then as for the barrier, well, if your healers aren't asleep, this is literally never an issue. I'd argue the mobility could be useful, sure, but do you really need that mobility? Well, if you don't, well then why would you pick this instead of another one of the jobs? And so because of the 2-minute meta and all those reasons, it's insane. Next up is going to be Time Mage, and obviously you can do things like I'm going to show you me on Monk on Time Mage. Why? Because it shows the cooldowns really, really well, because Monk has crazy low attack speed. We all know this, and so this is me stretching it to its max limit. You could even argue about Oracle, you could do this with Predict, but Monk also doesn't have Swiftcast, so let's not get too crazy here. So Time Mage I wanted to like, but Dispel's worthless outside of very few situations. Like, do you want to Dispel even Berserker's damage up debuff? Like, or I mean damage up buff? Dispel their buff? Not really, that doesn't make a difference. Can you even cast Sloga on those critical engagement things? No. Sloga's also on the GCD, so it also doesn't feel that good, and in mass farms, is that something that's gonna be something that helps the tank? No. Okay, well, what about Solo Pulse? Well, the tank's not taking that much damage, so you're sacrificing a GCD for what? So it's really not something that I've gotten much mileage out of at all. As well as Mage Masher, sure, that's fine, that's an add-on. Okay, that's awesome. And then in terms of haste, I would have expected more. Yes, we're on Monk right now, but it's really in reality something that just aligns into the 2-minute window, and I don't think that it's that strong. Like, I compared this to even Rangers. I would say that this falls short of that. Oh, but you could put it on a Black Mage? Bro, Black Mage just got reworked, and I literally have been playing Black Mage in Occult Crescent. Like, but Black Mages have so much mobility that this is silly to be like, oh, well, they have mobility. Well, pfft. And then for the, like, Meteor skill, it's just not impressive. Compared to Starfall, it is half the damage, same cooldown, and I'm just over Time Mage. I expected so much better, if I'm honest. Now we're gonna make the D tier jobs really quick. Monk, just not impressed with. Like, the self-supporting abilities are very meh. The damage is meh. It's just meh. Don't know why I'd want to play Monk when I have any of the higher tier jobs. Like, I would pick Time Mage over Monk. Why would I pick Monk? Knight, same deal. Like, you could put on the ability to resist 2 instances of damage. Not a timed instance like Oracle over 8 seconds. 2 instances of damage for this. And the little trickle heal is not enough to help sustain a tank. You could argue, oh, well, the tank that's pulling during a mass gold pull could use this. Okay, they could, but if their barrier healer like me is not asleep, it shouldn't be a problem. And then as for Thief, I thought it was good during solo gold farms, and then I realized something important. Ninja's Doku Mori actually allows you to apply in an AoE the steal effect. So Thief is really, really bad in critical engagements. Thief is outdated when it comes to the gold farms. And then you could argue, well, what about solo gold farming where you're doing single pack pulls to get that crit buff? Well, why wouldn't you be a Cannoneer? Why wouldn't you be a Bard? Why wouldn't you be a Samurai? Why wouldn't you be an Oracle if you're doing the single pack gold pulls? No, this is absolutely not good. Now for the F tier, we're going to be starting off for Freelancer, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know like how to put it. I mastered all the jobs, and I kind of expected, even though I know that it's probably going to be patch 7.5 that they do something cute with it, I'm not going to lie to you, I was so disappointed with Phantom Freelancer when I actually got everything up and I realized, oh shit, this is really it. Bad heal, and then seeing how many chests are on the map. Well, if you watch my video on the silver chest locations, you know the 8 silver chest locations. This is not helping you at all. This is just disappointing. I understand that Freelancer's supposed to be really weak at the start, but it's like, okay, so we need to wait like a year and a half until Freelancer's anything but garbage. I don't want to seem unreasonable, but even though this is like the first installment of it, it just feels so bad that it's just like, really? Let's talk about Geomancer for a bit, because I'm actually so disappointed in this, because Geomancer is one of the jobs that I really, really, really was excited for. It's something that I've been excited for since in Stormblood for the Astrologian class quest. They were telling us all about the Geomancer.
What the fuck is this?
Float doesn't even work on those critical engagements. No, the command little pot that has those little earth AoEs.
Those don't work with float.
Hey, what about the lion with the earth and wind orbs that pops earth out of the ground?
Well, no, float doesn't work for that either, so it's only useful for the one statue fate. Well, that's disappointing.
So it's not even consistent, so it's just shit. The 2 battle bell abilities are just awful. Like, it's like, it stacks up to at most a 40% buff on the tank, and that's specifically the tank. If you're taking that much damage as a DPS, something is wrong. And if you want to be like a damage buff job, or even an HP sustain job, I would argue that Bard's skills with Mighty March as well as their damage buffs is so much better than these. Not to even mention that, like, these can at most target 2 people, and that you need to be putting them out on a single target every 30 seconds in order to even get that effect. I'm, like, just so underwhelmed with this part of Geomancer. And then lastly, I want to talk about the weather effect. Some people will be like, oh, you put Geomancer so low because of the different weather effect. No, I think that's an interesting mechanic. Like, keep it with the weather. My problem with the weather effects is that they're so freaking weak. Like, if Sunbath is just a 50,000 potency heal, meh. On the GCD and with a 40-second cooldown timer, like, I cannot think of a situation where this is going to be something I consider good. Oh yeah, and don't forget that its range is literally 15 yalms. Whereas if I literally pull up Sage's Fizz's ability, Sage's Fizz's is a 30 double yalm range. Same with Panheima, same with Holos, you get the drift. Oh yeah, and Caracol. Like, the list goes on and on. Like, even the range of this ability is not to mention, and this will be my final point on Geomancer. Geomancer I thought was going to be more about placing fields and domes and areas. There's nothing in this Geomancer that represents that at all. I feel like they played way too safe with it, and I feel like what we got was just something that's just an inferior bard phantom job, and the float ability doesn't even work, and so that leaves me just really kind of disappointed, because I was excited from Geomancer. I was thinking about it ever since the Stormblood Ass quest, like I said. Astrologian had Geomancer, and well, where's the Geomancer in Geomancer? So that's why it's on its own special little timestamp, because what the fudge? As someone who was excited for Geomancer, bro, this kind of hurt. I'm gonna be real. I really was excited for it.